mortar corporations. They're mobile. They go from place to place. The reason they came here is because of the credits. And the reason they'll leave is because those credits are gone.
That's right.
No low corporate tax rate will keep them here. They don't care. It's like trying to get fishermen in Nebraska. It ain't gonna happen. Fishermen are going to go where the water is, and the film, TV, video business will go where the incentives are. It's that simple. Governor Snyder has ignored this fact, but we cannot, because people here have benefited from the very thing that makes this industry unique. We grew from 2 million to 225 million in 2 years. That's 100-fold growth. What other industry has done that? Name me one other industry. You can't. And the reason it happened is because this business is nimble, it sets up shop quickly, brings in hundreds of millions quickly. But if you're smart, you grow with it, you build with it, and pretty soon they're not just coming here for the incentives, but because they like the crew, the talent, the atmosphere, the familiarity. They're coming because of studios you built in Pontiac and Livonia. They're coming because they had one good experience and they want another. We have seen this work every month since these things started. There is a reason we are bigger every year than the year before. Why? Because the industry is coming to trust us, making bigger projects and feeling comfortable. But just as they were setting down in the boat, boom, our governor has blown them out of the water. The state that wants to be business-friendly is now potentially sending 4,000 jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars out of town. This is not about saving Tom Cruise. This is about saving Tom Farmington Hills and Tom Novi and Tom Detroit. Our administration has sent a message that was parodied in the LA Times of Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino saying, "Get off my lawn," to the movie business. But we are here to say, hang on, it's not just your lawn. That's our grass too. And last I looked, the state coffers were not corporate profits, Governor Snyder was not a CEO, and we were not his employees. He is there. He is there, as are the legislators, to govern for the people. For the people. The money is our money, our taxes. We paid it in. And if we as a people say we want to offer to pay out incentives to increase economic activity, $6 for every $1 spent, then our voices should be heard and our voices should be respected. Now, this is not and should not be about anger. If we dissolve into hate, we have lost not just this fight, but our dignity. This cannot denigrate into Republican versus Democratic name-calling. It cannot be a liberal-conservative thing. That way lies madness and worse, defeat. When these credits passed just 3 years ago, they did so almost unanimously, across party lines, and it should be that way again. So to that end, let's quickly clear up a few misconceptions. First, these are tax credits that are not paid out until all the work is done, all the money is spent, and all the accounting is accounted for. That means in many cases you have films spending tens of millions of dollars and our state is not paying them out a cent until a year or a year and a half later. Remember that when people ask you about this program. Any good businessman can see the advantage of money in early and out late. Number two, we don't hand out 42% to just anybody over anything. Remember that. It's only 42% in a couple of key communities and only if you use all Michigan labor and crew and services. In most places it's 40% and only if you use Michigan crew and labor and services. And if you use out-of-state workers, that only gets you 30%, even though they're living here and spending money here and having to pay taxes on wages they earn here. And any work done on a movie that is not done here gets zero. Please remember this when people ask you how this works. Three, this is not a way for Michigan celebrities to get rich. let me tell you one, and I only include one personal story in these remarks that breaks my heart. I'm in conversations, negotiations now, for a film of a book that I wrote that's very dear to my heart called Have a Little Faith. And it is about a Detroit pastor. It's about a Detroit pastor in a Detroit church. And when they told me they wanted to make it, I said, well, please come to Detroit to talk to me because I want you to see this church. And they flew in and they sat in this rundown church in downtown Detroit that once had a hole in its roof where snow used to come in. And they sat there and were so moved by it that by the end of the day, they agreed with me. They said, okay, we'll make it all here in Detroit. We'll use this church. We'll film the homeless people that come in here and actually have to sleep here. We'll tell the story of the church. And I was overjoyed because I knew that the attention that would get and the money that they would spend might actually help save this church. And the contract arrived via email a few days before the governor's speech. And with a little codicil on a line there, it said, we agreed to film this production entirely in Detroit. And then there was a parenthesis, and it said, unless the tax incentives are changed. Well, the truth is, if this goes through, they'll make a movie about a Detroit pastor and a beautiful Detroit church in Toronto, or Vancouver, or Louisiana, and another opportunity to build pride for our state and tell stories in our state and give jobs to our state will be lost. Now here is what I want you to remember from that. Whatever I get is exactly the same. I make not 1 penny more if they film it in Louisiana or here. Jeff, Mike, other artists, writers, actors make not 1 penny more. This is not about enriching people who are from here. This is about people who are from here enriching other people who are from here. Misconception number 4, we need to cut these tax breaks to save Michigan. No, we don't. The governor just gave certain businesses a $1.8 billion tax cut. Well, what is that compared to this? What are the incentives if not a form of a tax cut? Except they're a lot smaller. In fact, the amount that we would need to operate is a drop in the bucket compared to $1.8 billion for others. Governor Snyder didn't cut this program because he had to. He cut it because he doesn't believe in it. Well, in his defense, he's only been on the job for 6 weeks. Maybe with more time, he'll hear from more of you, I hope he will, and he'll learn its value. Having said that, a guy on the job for 6 weeks shouldn't trash an entire industry with one budget. Final misconception. This program costs too much because it doesn't pay for itself. Let's be clear about something. Not everything is measured by how much money it puts back into the tax coffers. Take our roads. I read today in the paper that we just allotted $274 million to fix up the roads this year. $274 million. That's far more than we would have to give out to this program for this year and next year combined. $274 million to fix roads doesn't put taxes back in the coffers. Have you ever seen a road pay a tax? So why do we do it? Public good, jobs it creates, the climate it creates for being able to do business by driving the roads. Well, guess what? That's exactly what the incentives do. They provide the right climate, they create jobs, they do a public good. The only difference is we don't have to repave the tax incentives every 2 years. So we need to correct this. And what can we do to finish this up? What can we do? That's what you want to know. That's what you're here for tonight. Okay, first of all, we have to say no to Governor Snyder's suggestion of an appropriation. No way, it will not work. Not only is this $25 million that he allotted nowhere near enough to sustain a program, but making it an appropriation instead of a law as it is now means every year we have to go back and beg for money all over again. It runs out at the end of each year. Can you imagine having to do this every February? Appropriations also often happen to be approved by a 2/3 majority vote of the legislature, a very difficult thing to get, a battle we cannot do every year.